Charles Leclerc shocked everyone by stealing Ferrari's first pole of 25, but by the checkered flag, it was Lando Norris celebrating his most unlikely victory of the season. What you're about to see is the complete breakdown of one of the most strategical, intense races of 25, where a single pit stop decision turned the championship battle upside down and left everyone asking one question: how did Norris pull off the impossible? The Hungarian Grand Prix began with Charles Leclerc doing something no one expected, converting his shock pole position into a clean race lead. After Ferrari's first pole of the season on Saturday, Leclerc held his nerve through turn 1 as the McLaren duo of Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris gave chase. But here's where the things got interesting. Norris dropped from 3rd to 5th in the opening corners, getting passed by both George Russell and Fernando Alonso. It was the kind of start that usually ends championship hopes, not creates them. Piastri meanwhile kept his second place and immediately began hunting down Leclerc for the lead. The championship leader was doing everything right, staying close, keeping the pressure on and looking like the favorite to take his 7th win of 25. McLaren, the strategic masterclass. McLaren entered Hungary with their 7th 1-2 finish of the season in their sights, but they had to earn it the hard way. Piastri, leading the championship by 16 points, qualified second and looked set for another commanding victory. His race plan was simple: stay close to Leclerc, use the undercut strategy and control the race from the front. Norris, however, found himself in trouble early. After his poor start dropped him to 5th, he was stuck behind Russell and struggling in the dirty air. The McLaren strategist had a choice: stick with the planned two-stop strategy or gamble on something different. On lap 3, Norris showed his McLaren speed, getting past Alonso to climb back to 4th, but Russell was proving harder to pass, and every lap in the dirty air was costing him time to the leaders, so they decided to gamble on a one-stop, which gave us a battle for the lead. In the last 5 laps, Norris held his lead in front of Piastri and claimed the victory. Ferrari, from pole to frustration. Charles Leclerc weekend was a roller coaster that started with disbelief. Today I don't understand anything in Formula 1, he said after claiming pole position. The Ferrari had looked off the pace all weekend, consistently 3 or 4 tenths slower than McLaren in practice. But when the conditions changed in Q3 with a 180-degree wind shift and dropping track temperatures, Leclerc found the perfect setup. He delivered what he called probably the most unexpected pole position of his career. The race started perfectly for Ferrari. Leclerc got away cleanly and immediately began building a gap to Piastri. By lap 10, he had opened a 2.5-second lead and looked in complete control. First stint, he was controlling the race perfectly, second also, but on third stint his pace dropped off dramatically, which allowed George Russell to pass him for the final podium position. Lewis Hamilton's weekend, however, was the complete opposite of his teammate's success. After calling himself absolutely useless following his Q2 elimination in qualifying, Hamilton started 12th and never recovered. His race was completely compromised from the start. Running on hard tires in a failed strategic gamble, he finished a disappointing 12th, one lap down in what was one of his worst weekends in 25. Red Bull, the championship defense crumbles. Max Verstappen weekend in Hungary was a nightmare that perfectly encapsulated Red Bull's 25 struggles. Starting 8th after qualifying, behind even Gabriel Bortoleto, Verstappen was already in damage limitation mode. Nothing seems to work, Verstappen said after qualifying. The RB21 had been sliding all weekend with no grip front or rear. Technical director Pierre Wash admitted nothing is responding as expected, and Verstappen was brutally honest about his championship chances. When asked if Red Bull could win another race in 25, Verstappen's response was stark: "No, not the way things are going right now. That's just the way it is, it's clear." His race reflected these struggles. Verstappen made little progress, getting involved in an incident with Hamilton at turn 4 that put him under investigation. He finished 9th, his worst result of 25, and looked like a driver whose championship window had firmly closed. Yuki Tsunoda weekend was even worse, getting eliminated in Q1 and showing just how far Red Bull had fallen from their championship winning form. Mercedes, the podium fighters. George Russell delivered delivered Mercedes' strongest weekend in months, nearly claiming pole position before a snap of oversteer in turn 14 cost him precious time. Starting fourth, Russell was perfectly positioned to capitalize on any drama ahead. Mercedes had reverted to their pre-Imola rear suspension setup, and both Russell and rookie Kimi Antonelli reported feeling more confident in the car. The change paid dividends for Russell, who managed his tires well and positioned himself for a podium charge. Antonelli, meanwhile, was eliminated in Q2, but showed encouraging pace throughout practice. The Italian rookie had been building confidence week by week, and Hungary represented another step forward in his development. He managed to secure the final point for Mercedes, climbing from 15th to 10th. Aston Martin, the surprise package. Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll delivered Aston Martin's best qualifying performance since 23, starting 5th and 6th respectively. The result was completely unexpected after both cars were eliminated in Q1 at Spa just 1 week earlier. Alonso, racing with a back injury that forced him to miss FP1, was philosophical about the turnaround. "We didn't change the car massively since Spa 7 days ago," he explained. "It's just the layout, the characteristics of the circuit suiting our car." The 44-year-old delivered a brilliant first lap, getting past Norris at the start and briefly running fourth. Though he lost the position back to Norris on lap 3, Alonso held on for a valuable 5th place finish, exactly where he started. Stroll backed up his teammate with a solid 7th place, giving Aston Martin a double points finish that moved them up in the constructors' standings. Williams, a weekend to forget. Williams endured one of the most difficult weekends of 25, with both Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon struggling from the first practice session. The Williams simply couldn't find grip at the Hungaroring, leaving both drivers battling a car that felt completely out of balance. Sainz, despite his experience and multiple race wins, could only manage 13th in qualifying. "We have a car that for this circuit is the worst so far all year," he admitted. The Spaniard's frustration was clear. In a season where he's shown his class at times, Hungary exposed the Williams' fundamental weakness. Alex Albon had it even worse, qualifying dead last in 20th position. The Thai British driver described his qualifying lap as crappy and struggled to find any rhythm with the car throughout practice. Despite his reputation as one of the great's most adaptable drivers, Albon simply couldn't extract pace from the Williams car. In the race, both drivers finished outside the points, with Sainz 14th and Albon 15th, both one lap down. It was a reminder that Williams still had work to do despite their strong early season form. Team boss James Walls admitted they may have gone in the wrong development direction. Sauber, Gabriel's moment of glory. Gabriel Bortoleto delivered the drive of his Formula One career so far, qualifying 7th and finishing 6th for his best ever result in both sessions. Starting his rookie season in F1, the Brazilian showed maturity beyond his years to capitalize on a car that had genuine pace. Bortoleto's qualifying performance was impressive, making it to Q3 and out-qualifying Max Verstappen's Red Bull. "I'm incredibly happy with how qualifying unfolded," he said. "After a challenging start to the weekend where we lacked pace and confidence in the car, we worked hard to address the issues." His race was even better. Starting 7th, Bortoleto overtook Lance Stroll to claim his career best 6th place. The result moved him significantly up the driver's standings and gave Sauber valuable points in their fight with the midfield. Nico Hülkenberg, however, had a weekend to forget. The German driver was surprisingly eliminated in Q1, qualifying 19th. "There's no hiding the fact that today's result is disappointing," Hülkenberg admitted. Despite showing good pace in practice, he couldn't find the balance when it mattered in qualifying. His race was further compromised by a jump start penalty that added 5 seconds to his race time. He finished 13th, one lap down, in a result that didn't reflect his usual consistency. The contrast between the two Sauber drivers was a stark, highlighting how small margins can make huge differences in F1. Racing Bulls. Racing Bulls achieved their goal of getting both cars into Q3, with Liam Lawson qualifying 9th and Isaac Hadjar 10th. It was was strong qualifying performance that showed that they have genuine pace in Budapest. Lawson was pleased with his qualifying, saying it's good to be in Q3, particularly given it's been quite difficult weekend so far. The New Zealander had called his team naive for dismissing the Aston Martin's threat during practice, but he backed up his words with a solid qualifying performance. In the race, Lawson converted his qualifying position into points, finishing 8th. It was a solid, mature drive that showed why Red Bull promoted him to the senior team earlier in the season, even if that stint didn't work out. Hajar, the French-Algerian driver, finished 11th, one lap down, missing out on points by just one position. Still, his qualifying performance showed he's adapting well to Formula One in his rookie season. Both drivers were within striking distance of better results, but overtaking in Hungary proved difficult. Still, it was a positive weekend for Racing Bulls, showing they have the pace to fight in the midfield. Alpine struggles continue. Alpine's difficult 2025 season continued in Hungary, with both Pierre Gasly and Franco Colapinto struggling for pace throughout the weekend. The Alpine simply didn't have the speed to compete with the midfield runners, leaving both drivers fighting at the back. Pierre Gasly, despite his experience and past success at Hungaroring, was eliminated in Q1 and qualified 17th. It was always disappointing to be out in Q1, Gasly said. We knew going into qualifying it would be a challenge, but at the recent races we have still managed to put it together and extract the maximum from the car. His race was equally challenging, finishing 19th and 2 laps down for a driver who has shown a brilliance this season. Hungary was a stark reminder of Alpine's performance deficit. The team struggles with traction and balance, evident all season, were exposed at a technical Hungaroring. Franco Colapinto had a slightly better weekend, qualifying 14th, his best qualifying position since joining Alpine at Imola. The Argentine driver showed improvement throughout practice and felt more confident with the car than he had in recent races. After Imola is the first time that I find some consistency with the car, Colapinto explained. I feel a bit more generally better through corner and entry phases. However, he still finished 18th in the race, one lap down, highlighting how much work Alpine still has to do. Executive advisor Flavio Briatore acknowledged the team struggles, a difficult session today with the car falling short of our expectations. The team is clearly working hard to find solutions, but Hungary showed there's still some way off the pace. Haas, the mixed fortunes and the heartbreak. Haas entered Hungary with optimism after scoring double points in the Belgian Grand Prix sprint race. Both Esteban Ocon and Ollie Bearman felt the VF25 had a genuine pace, but execution would once again prove costly. Esteban Ocon, the 2021 Hungarian Grand Prix winner, was looking to repeat his heroics at the Hungaroring. The Frenchman had shown strong pace in practice and felt the car was capable of fighting for points. However, his weekend unraveled in qualifying, and he started from a lowly grid position. His race was further compromised by strategy and setup issues, finishing 16th and one lap down. For a driver of Ocon's caliber, it was a frustrating result at a circuit where he had previously tasted victory. The pace was there in the car, but small margins and execution errors cost valuable points. Ollie Bearman's weekend started promisingly, with the rookie showing good pace in practice. However, his race came to heartbreaking end on lap 48, when he was forced to retire due to damage. It was only retirement of the race making particularly frustrating for the young Brit. There's been quite few points we need to brush up on, Bearman said before the race. The retirement was another example of the small details that have cost Haas throughout 25. The pace is often there, but converting it into consistent results remains a challenge. Team boss Eo Komatsu will be disappointed with the weekend, especially after the promise shown at Spa. The VF25 clearly has potential, but Haas needs to find more consistency if they want to fight for the points in the ultra-competitive midfield, the strategic battle that decided everything. The turning point of Hungarian Grand Prix came not from an overtake or mistake, but from a pitfall decision that seemed crazy at the time. On lap 19, McLaren made their move. Piastri pitted first, attempting to undercut Leclerc. It was the classic Hungary strategy. Track position is everything at the Hungaroring, so you pit early and hope the fresh tires give you the edge. Leclerc responded immediately, pitting on lap 20. He managed to stay ahead of Piastri, but only just. The battle was now just between the Ferrari and the second McLaren. with both drivers committed to two-stop strategies. But Norris was still out there, suddenly leading the race as the others pitted. His engineer, Will Joseph, came on the radio with a question that would change everything. Do you want to try one stop? Norris' response was perfect. Why not? It was decision born from desperation, but executed with precision. Norris had nothing to lose. He was already behind his teammate in both the race and the championship. The one stop was his only chance to get back in the fight. The final stint drama. What followed was one of the most tense final stints of 25 season. Norris, on his single set of hard tires, had to manage 39 laps to the finish. Behind him, Piastri was charging on fresh rubber, and Leclerc was struggling as his Ferrari's pace mysteriously disappeared. By lap 46, Piastri made his second stop and rejoined in third, 12 seconds behind Norris. The math was simple. He had 24 laps to make up the deficit on much fresher tires. Russell, meanwhile, was making his own charge. The Mercedes driver had been patient all race, and when Leclerc's pace dropped off dramatically, Russell pounced, and he managed to pass Ferrari with ease on lap 62, stealing the final podium spot. Leclerc's frustration was clear over the radio. "You should have listened to me," he said. The Ferrari that had looked so strong early in the race simply couldn't maintain its pace, leaving the Leclercs to settle for fourth place. The championship showdown. The final 10 laps of Hungarian Grand Prix were pure theater. Piastri, on fresher tires, was closing on Norris at over a second a lap. The gap came down from 12 seconds to just 3 seconds with 5 laps to go. On lap 68, with just 2 laps remaining, Piastri got close enough to try a move. He lunged down the inside at turn 1, but locked up his front tires and nearly made contact with his teammate. It was a desperate move from a driver who could feel the victory slipping away. "Remember how we go racing," Piastri's engineer Tom Stallard told him over the radio. It was a reminder to keep it clean, to remember they were teammates fighting for the same cause. The final lap was procession. Piastri got close again but couldn't find a way past. Norris held his nerve, managed his tires perfectly, and crossed the line with just 0.698 seconds ahead of his teammate. It was McLaren's 200th Formula One victory, and it cut Piastri's championship lead from 16 points just to 9. Norris's victory, his 5th of the season, proved that he wasn't giving up on his title dreams. The gap to Piastri was now small enough that anything could happen in the remaining 10 races. For Verstappen, finishing 9th was a stark reminder of how far Red Bull had fallen. The four-time world champion looked resigned to his fate, already talking about the need to focus on 26. Ferrari's weekend was bittersweet. Leclerc's pole position showed their potential, but their inability to convert it into victory highlighted their inconsistency. Hamilton's struggles continued, with the 7-time world champion looking lost at his new surroundings. Russell's podium was a bright spot for Mercedes. The team looked capable of fighting for podiums again, but they need to find more consistency. As Formula One heads into its summer break, the championship battle has been completely reset. Piastri still leads, but Norris is breathing down his neck. The McLaren teammates have been respectful so far, but with a title on the line, that could change quickly. The Hungarian Grand Prix proved once again why strategy is so crucial in modern Formula One. Norris's one-stop gamble paid off perfectly, but it required flawless execution and a bit of luck, with Leclerc's pace dropping off. It also showed that in 25 you can never count anyone out. Norris looked finished after his poor start, but one strategic decision and 39 laps of brilliant driving later, he was celebrating victory. The championship fight is far from over, and if Hungary taught us anything, it's that the most unlikely scenarios can become reality in Formula One. Thank you for watching. Please comment, like and subscribe.